Hello students, today I will deliver my lecture on justification for using the disturbance or error term U in the econometric model. In my previous lecture, we have seen that the mathematical model expresses exact or deterministic relationship between dependent and independent variables. This means that there is one specific value of dependent variable for any one specific value of the independent variable. But in real life, we do not find such situation. Econometric model takes into account the variation in dependent variable even when the independent variable is the same by introducing a disturbance or error term in the model. This is called stochastic variable. Sometimes few less significant independent variables which may collectively affect the dependent variable are not included in the model. Therefore, by including the error term in the model, we can offset the effect of those variables. The inclusion of disturbance term or error term U in the econometric model is justified on the following grounds. First, vagueness of the theory. Economic theory is often incomplete because some variables are not taken into consideration. This may be because they have very insignificant effect on dependent variable, or the economist was unsure or ignorant about these variables. By including the error term in the econometric model, the effect of such variables are taken into account. Second point is unavailability of the data. Sometimes, even when we know that some factors are important and should be included in the model, but due to unavailability of the data of those factors, we cannot include them in the model. For example, we are unable to introduce the family wealth as an explanatory variable in addition to the income to explain family consumption expenditure because the quantitative data on family wealth is generally not available. Therefore, we are forced to omit the family wealth from our model despite its theoretical relevance in explaining consumption expenditure. Third point is due to error in equation. In the Keynesian law of consumption, we know that besides income, the number of children per family, sex, religion, education, and geographical region also affect consumption expenditure. It is quite possible that the joint influence of all or some of these variables may be so small that it is not worth introducing them in the model explicitly. Therefore, to the extent that we ignore these factors which influence the consumption expenditure, we would not expect our relationship to be exact. Therefore, inclusion of error term U in the model represents combined effect of all these omitted variables. Fourth, intrinsic randomness in human behavior. Human behavior is to a certain extent unpredictable and may cause deviation from the normal behavior pattern. In a moment's whim, a consumer may change his expenditure pattern although his income and the prices of the goods did not change. This intrinsic randomness in human behavior is difficult to predict and cannot be explained no matter how hard we try. The disturbances caused by this intrinsic randomness of human behavior can be reflected by the disturbance term U in the model. Fifth reason for introducing the error term U is poor proxy variables. The classical regression model assumes that the variables are measured accurately, but in practice there may be errors in measurement of data. For example, in Milton Friedman's consumption function, permanent consumption is regarded as a function of permanent income. But since the data on these variables are not directly observable, therefore we use proxy variables like current consumption and current income which are observable. Since the observed values of current consumption and current income may not be equal to the permanent consumption and permanent income, hence there is the problem of error of measurement of variables. If there are such errors of measurement, they could have serious implication for estimating the regression coefficients. So in order to offset the effect of this measurement error, we use the error term u in the econometric model. Sixth reason is principle of parsimony. If we can explain the behavior of dependent variables substantially with 2 or 3 variables, then we can exclude some variables which are not so important. In order to keep the model simple, then we will have to use the error term u for those excluded variables. Seventh is wrong functional form. Even if we have theoretically correct variables explaining a phenomena, and even if we can obtain data on these variables, very often we do not know the exact form of functional relationship between dependent and independent variables. Is the consumption function linear or non-linear? It is very difficult to decide. It is because the economic phenomena are very complex. Under such circumstances, we are likely to commit an error. Thus, the disturbance term u represents such an error which may be due to the imperfect specification of the form of the model. Eighth point, due to aggregation. Sometimes we use aggregate data such as aggregate consumption or aggregate income, in which we add magnitudes referring to individuals whose behavior is dissimilar. Thus, aggregation of such data introduces error in relationship. Such aggregation may be in the form of aggregation over time, spatial aggregation, cross-sectional aggregation, etc. And ninth, error in measurement. Another justification for including the error term u in the model is that it represents the measurement error in the recording or processing of the data. Thus, we measure as many factors as possible and include them in our model as separate variable, while we dispose of all the remaining under the heading random disturbances, while including the error term u in the model. Therefore, inclusion of error term u in our model is in a way confession of our ignorance about those unknown variables. Thank you.